Moulton once again with Tea Time with Carol. Want to welcome you in. We've got something really, or someone I should say, really, really special today. And you're really going to want to be here for it for all of this episode of Tea Time. But before we get started, we're pouring the tea. We've got some oolong today. I'm drinking coffee because it's cold outside and I need extra strength. And hope everyone has had a fabulous week. Hope you're, doing well with all the things that are going on. If you've made the decision about the vaccine, that you're, doing that. But in the meantime, hopefully you're staying safe and your family and everyone is safe in your orbit. Um, come on in and just welcome. We have fluffed up the pillows for you. The oolong tea is hot. So come on in. With our special guest today is Sharon Olson Collier. She is a certified life coach. She is a fabulous person. She has a really, really interesting story. And what you'll be particularly interested in, if you're single and ready to mingle, is that she's a dating coach. So I'd like to just welcome her. Sharon, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. I am so interested, and I'm a coach myself, certified as well, and really interested in how you came to dating as your particular area of interest.
I lost my husband to suicide when
Mm,
I was 37 years old,
I'm so
which is
sorry.
14 years ago. Thank you.
Hmm.
I waited a year, even though everybody was like, get out there and date. You're way too
Mm,
young to be single. Like, pressure from everybody. Go date, go date, go date. So I waited a year because I thought, the dust needs to settle. Suicide is kind of sudden and traumatic. And I put myself out there, and I'm going to tell you, I made every mistake I possibly could. And I kept
mm,
thinking, why am I attracting jerks, losers? And I hate to call anybody that, but people who were just super bad to me, people living in their parents' basement, or men in their parents' basement. I just had one bad dating experience after another, and, some super hurtful experiences just because of the men that I was choosing to allow into my life. So I was probably dating for about 5 years when I thought, I have to figure this out
mm,
because it's bad for me, it's bad for my children. And so I started studying and more, and it just led to this huge book of knowledge I have in my head now about love and attraction and toxic people and, what goes on in our brain chemicals that make us attached to people, that make us sad when we break up. There's this huge area that nobody really talks about in our brain that, controls our love and attraction.
mm,
And when my youngest graduated from high school, I thought, I can do something with this.
mm.
And so I certified in life coaching and became a dating coach. Well, I call myself a personal development and dating coach because personal development has so much to do with dating.
Mm. Hmm. How, okay. Explain. Say more about that. I mean, how, because when you say personal development, that would not be my first thought.
Right.
Usually you're thinking of law of attraction and getting more money or being an entrepreneur or, attracting money is usually at the top of the list. But I would not think necessarily dating. So how does that connect?
Um, Well, this goes along when you hear about baggage. People talk about baggage all the time. This is part of your personal development.
Mm,
I made several very bad decisions about myself based on the way my husband had treated me.
mm,
I did not feel worthy of a
mm,
good man. but I wasn't really conscious of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a lot of people get into this and feel bad about themselves after a divorce situation or even a widowed situation like me. You know, sometimes it's like the marriage is a failure. I failed my husband because he killed himself. I had all these bad decisions in my brain, and I literally did not feel like I could get anything better than these men who were not treating me well at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go on a journey of self-love, of, having a different identity. My identity was a wife and a mother. I have 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
And, 4 kids keep you really busy.
Yeah.
And, and that was my whole identity. And here I am single, and I had to come up with someone else because I was no longer a wife. I mean, I was definitely a mother, and my kids still needed taken care of. But, I had to do this journey of self-love and figure out really who I was and where I was going in my life and God's plan for me. And, I had to figure it all out. So I went on this journey. I became an interesting person. I set goals. I had experiences. I spent 1 year of my life completely doing things that scared me.
Oh, okay.
The rock climbing wall.
Right.
I won't go into water that I can't see the bottom of, so I went paddleboarding on a lake several times.
Wow.
I mean, I just did things that scared me. I tried new food, not necessarily that food scared me, but I just spent this year doing things that scared me, doing new things, and figuring out who I was. So I've been on a journey that I ask people to go on, but I understand their journey. When when we're doing personal development, I've already done that. And I understand, and I can be sympathetic and empathetic even to people's situation.
So what I hear you saying is before you recommend a dating app or some other way that people put themselves in position to meet someone, you suggest that they do the work on themselves first?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. You at least want to start that process to know that you're worth more. People ask me all the time, I don't understand how I attract such toxic people. And I tell them, toxic people will attach themselves to anybody who will have them. So you're allowing toxic people in. You're not attracting them. You're just allowing them in.
Wow.
And so once you start working on yourself and figuring out what you really love about yourself and developing better qualities, it's easier to recognize that other people aren't good.
So, but that's, yeah, absolutely. And that's good. I mean, that's really good. And that is such a powerful statement to say that gives you all the power the power goes back to you when you say you're allowing it, as opposed to when you say, it sounds very random and you have no control when you say, oh, these people just coming and why do I keep attracting them? Like you've got some secret magnet somewhere and zap, here they are, so it's far more powerful to say, this is what you allow in your life. So what do you say to the person who is afraid to be alone?
I tell those people being alone is such a wonderful opportunity to be the person you have always wanted to be. When we're growing up, we have all these hopes and dreams for ourselves. Little boys always want to be a policeman or a firefighter. And we go through different scenarios in our brain as we grow and develop of, who we really are and what our talents are and stuff. And being alone is such a beautiful opportunity. And I did not realize this until about year 7, that I could be whoever I wanted to be. And that was such a beautiful discovery. And like I said, I went and did all these things that scared me. When you do things that you are afraid of, it makes your fear smaller. By the end of that year, the things that were scaring me weren't really scaring me anymore. It was kind of easy to go do them because I'd already faced my fear so many times.
Wow. That's I like that. I like that. I'm going to have to really seriously think about, doing that. Because, well, actually, there were a couple of things that used to scare the what out of me, like flying.
Mm,
And, I was terrified to fly. A couple of times I had to travel for work and just to Atlanta. And rather than, I took the midnight train to Georgia, literally,
uh-huh.
rather than taking a 2 hour flight. And then a couple of years ago, I had to go to India for work. And I got on, I had gone to the doctor and I had asked for some medicines that would allow me to, fly without being anxious about it. And the Lord spoke to me when right before the plane took off and said, "Are you going to trust the pills or are you going to trust me?" And
Yeah.
that was the last time. And, so that flight was, I think, 17 hours and didn't take a pill, and I think because I made the decision to trust him, it was the best flight I'd ever been on. The flight attendant brought me these cookies that I fell in love with. They gave me all the cookies that they had. These were like really good cookies too. They were from this island in off of Scotland, somewhere. I mean, they were like fabulously good. And I came back and rationed them out. I was like, "Here, you can have a half of one of these,"
Right.
you know. But I'm saying all that to say I understand exactly what you're saying about conquering your fears, and what that really does for you. So now, I get on a plane and it's like, okay, like, I don't even think twice about it anymore, whereas before it was like, the fear was so much connected to not being in control,
Yes.
and I think that may have a lot to do with the problems that we encounter in dating. When I think a lot of times we as women want to control, we want to know what the end is going to be at the very beginning, you
Right.
know.
And I mean, and well, and part of, I talk about an infatuation period a lot. Um, this is a 4 to 5 month rose colored glasses period. A lot of times we make up in our heads during this period of who that person really is. We know about
Yeah.
20% of who they are, and we make up the rest in our heads.
Yeah.
So, you know, knowing all this and getting as much information as you can actually cut back on a lot of the fear, give you more confidence in dating. But I have to just say, as a single woman, I've been single for 14 years, again,
Mhm.
we're born single women.
Right. That's true.
But, you really can't do a lot without prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, as I went through this year of doing things that I really did fear,
Mm-hmm.
that was a big one. That, I've always been a good prayer, but that was a big one that I wasn't going to go through this without God,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and I think that is an important part of making this, part of your journey is, really relying on your Father in heaven.
Let's unpack that a little bit more, because I'm glad you brought that up, and I think that's a big challenge for a lot of us. What does dating look like when you're a Christian? How do you date without violating your own principles or violating the things? I mean, and some things are obvious, like you don't put yourself in certain situations, but aside from that, and we can talk about that part too. Aside from that, how do you manage date? What should dating look like as a
So
Christian?
most relationship issues are communication and boundaries.
Mm.
So let's talk boundaries for a minute. Boundaries are your values. It's how you reflect your values. So I value my body, so you can't touch it unless I say you can.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell people, you set your boundaries and you stay firm in your boundaries, because once you start letting your boundaries go, all of them will go.
Mm-hmm.
A person will be like, oh, well, you said we couldn't kiss on the first date, but you kissed me on the first date.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I believe you when you say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go this far,
Mm-hmm.
as far as affection goes, or, So boundaries, I mean, and boundaries aren't necessarily about, sex or affection. Your curfew. I value my time, or I value my sleep. So you have to have me in by midnight.
Right.
And so setting firm boundaries, and sometimes it's really hard, but like if I was going out on a date, I would tell the man, without question, I never kiss on the first date, because that's a really good way to confuse feelings with hormones. I want to know what I'm feeling is real, and I don't want to confuse that with hormones. And so I tell them that before I even meet them in person a lot of times. Just so you know, I don't kiss on the first date. And a lot of times we're like, oh, geez, I don't either. Or some people were like, oh, thanks for letting me know. Some guys.
Okay.
I talk to men and women when I date, and so I tend to generalize and say people instead of men or women. Oh. Okay. So talking about myself, that's why I keep saying people.
Oh, because, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
When I talk to a large group, I'm talking about people, because I'm talking to men and women.
Sure, absolutely. Yes. No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm right with you. So, but let's talk about that a little bit more. I'd like to get a little bit more granular of what that looks like. So I know some people use apps, and that's fine. And I'm single also, and one of the things that I have learned, and I'm, I use a couple of dating apps, and I've learned that I think your boundaries is really key. That I'm able to weed out a lot faster now. Somebody contacted me kind of recently, maybe 3 weeks ago. And, the first conversation was great. It was very interesting. He, lives out of town, but he was talking about what he did. It was a very nice conversation. And then I didn't hear from him for a while. And a couple of days later, he texted me, and I answered him back, and it was nothing, crickets. And then he did the same thing again, where he texted me, how are you doing? I responded, crickets again. And I was like, oh, this guy, this is not worth, my time. So then he called me. And, he wanted to just have this conversation. And really what it was, I think at the bottom line, he was really trying to get people involved in his cryptocurrency or something that he was doing. That's really what it was about. And, I said to him, well, wait a minute. I don't understand your style of communication. You texted me, I responded, and then nothing. And he just wanted to kind of pass over it. So, I got super irritated because I felt like this was such an insult and such disrespect to me and my time. When we ended the call, I blocked him and I deleted the contact. I just said I just don't. No, I'm just not going to. But we all have to get to that point where we learn how to value ourselves. Yes. And not because I think women are socialized to be accommodating and understanding. And that's something, I'm a baby boomer. And so, I think, other generations may not have it in the same experience things, socializing, in the same kind of way. But I found it difficult to be able to express myself and my own opinion about things, that boundary thing. I found that difficult, and it's just now that it's something that I value in me. So let me ask you a question. What do you do with a person like me who has a hard time standing up for herself or knowing where the boundaries should be?
So it's like I said, it goes back to what you value. You valued your time. You weren't going to waste your time with this man. It's like, I don't know where you're coming from. You ignored what I said. And so, honestly, that was totally the right thing to do. So it's like, you have to take what you really value, like I said before, I value my body. You can't touch it till I say you can,
Mm-hmm.
So you take what you value and you incorporate that. And a lot of times people have a hard time because, like you said, women are accommodating. We've kind of been raised that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to express that.
Mm-hmm.
I am known for saying it like it is. And you're a coach. Sometimes you have to say it like it is.
Right. Right.
We can't be afraid of that, but there's a lot of women, and I tell people it's just like talking to your kids about drugs. What do they tell you when you're talking to your kids about drugs? What are you going to say if somebody offers you drugs? Well, you're going to say, no, I don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So it's almost the same thing, is to have that dialogue already in the back of your brain or the front of your brain. Oh, hey, no, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't do this. I don't do that or this early in the relationship. I don't drink alcohol. So I would tell people,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, hey, do you want to go dancing at the bar? Well, sure. But just so you know, I don't drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's just expressing your values is
Right.
pretty much what you're doing. And, if you have that dialogue in the back of your brain,
Mm-hmm.
my friend, when she chats with men online and they go to some, dirty places,
Mm-hmm.
she'll tell them, oh, I don't talk like that ever.
Mm-hmm.
And some will continue to do it and get blocked.
Right.
Some will be very respectful. And
Yeah.
honestly, when people respect your boundaries, that's how you know they're a good person.
Yeah.
And that's how you know they respect you. And you can continue with the relationship. But if they're not going to respect your boundaries, if they're always trying to push your boundaries, that's not the person for you.
Absolutely.
You know?
What's astounding to me is, and maybe because guys are visual, I don't know, why this is, but it seems like a lot of them want to go there very quickly. And I'm like, you don't even know my last name. Why are we, why do you want to go there? And not to mention, the wrong kind of pictures they want to send you,
Right.
And I'm like, why would you think that I'd want to see? What am I supposed to get out of that? Why is that, And I asked the guy that one time, he last time somebody sent me a picture like that. I said, why would you, what do you think I get out of that? And he said, I thought you'd like it. I was like, well, that's a no for me. So thank you so much.
Right.
Goodbye.
Right.
But
And I think the people who send those
mm-hmm.
Probably are thinking that's their best asset. And honestly, I mean, women send them to men all the time, and, men send them to women. And it's like, because that's not the most important part of you. You can be a beautiful person without being, physically attractive.
Right, absolutely.
And these people who think that they have to, what's the word I'm looking for? Stretch their values or, sacrifice their values to get a member of the opposite sex are, just have low self-esteem. It's a self-esteem issue when they need to be confident in who they are and not, rely on that. So, I think most men are, it's like, it's a self-esteem thing. It's like, oh, I'm going to send you this picture. And it's like, well, if that's the best you got, I'm not interested.
Yeah,
Thanks.
really. I do not want to see your shortcomings.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't. So, and I don't, there is so much more, and I think it's because they come from a visual place and we're in our heads, so
Right.
I'm much more interested in, your conversation and the things that interest you in the world, not just drinking a beer and playing a game and, that kind of thing.
Right.
But,
Yes. Well, like, I'm attracted to really nerdy guys. I like a guy with big brains.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to be impressed by body parts or, or your motorcycle or whatever, the things that people put online. And I help people with their profiles all the time because I look at profiles and think, are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's some crazy things out there. There are some really, really, really crazy things out there, So I'm sure you would not be surprised.
I am no longer surprised at anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I'd like to back up for a second. This is so good, and I'm really, loving this conversation. And I'm thinking right now about the person who is just coming out of a breakup and it's still very raw and very tender, but they want to date and, not 100% comfortable. What do you say to that person? When do you know, going back to what you said earlier, where your friends and family were saying, get out, you need to get back out there, jump back out there. What do you say to that person who is, maybe not that long, or maybe it has been a long time, but they still feel very raw? How do you help them get past that so that they can, face life with an open heart again?
Okay, so first of all, it's like you really don't want to put yourself out there when things are raw. I can't tell you how many men I've dated where I felt like the therapist. Even before I was coaching, it's like they just wanted to dump everything about their ex-wife. And I'm looking at him going, do I look like a therapist? Maybe I do. I don't know. Do I have a sign on me that says open for business, therapy, psychiatric help by cents,
Yeah. I send you my bill in the morning.
Anyways, exactly. And it's like, you don't want to be that person because that is such a turnoff to a healthy person. It's like, oh, obviously you are not ready to date.
Right.
Well,
right.
I am.
Right.
And it's like, a lot of people want to pair off because their ex just got married again, or they want to show their ex up. Those are not healthy reasons to put yourself out there and start dating.
Right.
And so when you're feeling really raw, you really do have to come to terms with your divorce, with your widow situation. One of my girlfriends was like, didn't you want to talk about it all the time for the first year or so? And I was like, yes. Like, she ordered a Diet Coke at McDonald's and wanted to tell the person, did you know my husband just died?
Oh, my God.
And, there's some really raw emotions with divorce and widowhood. And you really need to get yourself in a place, whether it's time, whether it's therapy, to not have those so raw, because you can't replace that person, and I think there's a hole in your heart and you think somebody else can fill it. It's like, no, you have to adjust to that hole being there and be a functioning person with that hole being there in your heart. It's like adjusting to it rather than getting rid of it or filling it. And so, it's, if you're having a hard time and time isn't helping, because time is healing,
right?
And a lot of times you do have to turn that over to Jesus. A lot of times it's like, Jesus is going to help us through this. I'm a strong believer in that.
Right.
But without getting the help and having it so raw, it is just not a really good place to date.
Yeah.
But, time is a good healer, and talking to other people in your situation, that's a great healer. But, and once again, we go back to personal development, developing yourself into a happy person, doing things that you love, doing things that do make you smile, having things to look forward to. We haven't even gotten into chemicals yet. I'm like, dopamine responses. Dopamine is our happy drug.
Right.
Looking forward to things helps us produce dopamine.
Yeah.
And that helps us get through these really, really tough spots.
Right. Absolutely. And, I think what I hear you saying is it's about getting out of your own head. And when you stop revisiting and, just stop churning over, maybe it could have been different. Oh, this was such a good time. Oh, this reminds me of him,
Yes,
when you
or beating yourself up because maybe things failed.
Right. Right.
It is. But, grief is just something, I talk about grief. And, I think divorced people, you would agree. I'm not divorced, but I'm widowed and you're divorced. It is grief.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a death of a marriage. I mean, it's like a death,
Yes. Yes. And so I tell people it's like an ugly pie you have to eat. And, I'm like, it's like mincemeat pie. I remember my dad made me try mincemeat pie once. And I'm like, that's not pie. That is crap. Right? And so it's like this ugly pie you have to eat. And you know what? If you only eat half the pie, the other half is still waiting there.
Right.
Like, you have to go through all the emotions and all the stages of grief.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that ugly pie is still waiting for you, and it's going to come up and be like, hey, eat me.
Right.
Eventually. If you can catch that analogy, if that helps.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one, that you either eat the pie or it follows you around for life,
Yeah.
So, Yeah.
really.
There's no going around it. You really have to go through it. So, another question that I have for you, if you can explain the difference between moving on and rebounding.
So when we're rebounding, we're trying to fill that hole in our heart
Mm.
because we have brain chemicals. Our dopamine literally makes us feel like we're addicted to a person. So when we go through a breakup, if we break up with someone, we're still really attached to them because dopamine is one of our attachment hormones, as well as oxytocin that makes us feel attached. We have to come down off the oxytocin and we have to work through the dopamine, which is really painful. And then if you were the one, if you didn't do the breaking up, if somebody else broke up with you, you have to add rejection to that. Wow. And so this is a painful process, right? Yeah. We've all been broken up with. We've all broken up with people. Both of them are painful. So when we're rebounding, we're really trying to medicate ourselves with another person.
Oh, I see.
But when we're moving forward from a healthy place, where we don't need a person, we want a person.
Right. You're not trying to replace, but you're just looking to add to something to what you already have.
Yes, because, and I say medicate with them because really another person kind of makes you feel better for a while, but it really doesn't. It's like eating the pie.
Right.
Half the pie is still there, and you're going to end up smearing that pie all over the next person. It's not, we can't, when people talk about bleeding all over somebody else, our wounds, we're bleeding, that's what happens. We have not healed, and so we're going to go bleed all over somebody else. Our rebound is usually going to get bled on, and we don't want to go around hurting people any more than we want to be hurt.
Right. So, well, when someone wants to do this kind of work, about how long do you suggest doing the work or working with you? What would that look like?
It just really depends because by the time people realize they're ready for a coach, a lot of people have really healed. I have done a lot of healing and they're like, maybe an extra person would help us go faster. I have never really worked with someone. I usually work with people 3 to 6 weeks. Because we start setting goals. And as soon as people start setting goals and accomplishing goals, even if they're just small things like getting out of bed and getting a shower, but I don't usually have a lot of those. But as soon as people start accomplishing goals, it's like they don't need me anymore. It's like, oh, I got this.
Right.
It's like I help people build confidence and I give them an education so they're not going out there blind. They understand what the red flags are.
Doesn't that make you feel good? Doesn't that make you feel good when people come back to you and say, hey, I didn't think I could do this, but, I did it, and I feel wonderful, and Sharon, thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you.
So good. But I've actually married a couple people off.
Really?
So I have marriage success stories. And that, honestly, to tell you the truth, that is the best.
Oh, wow. Well,
when they've actually worked through their issues and found somebody great and got married to somebody,
I love happy endings. Can you share one? I love that.
I have she was a widowed friend who met somebody really quick after she lost her husband, and her fear was big. And we worked through her fear, and they've been married over a year now. Just working through some of the, the fear she had of being too soon, and there was a lot of self-doubt in there. She had issues from like before her first marriage, and so just working through all that and making it, all real was, just really helped her to get married. And they're wonderful. They're wonderful together.
Wow. Well, that is, I love happy endings. I love I love hearing that there is hope, for the single crowd. And, sometimes, well, just where I am right now, I'm happily single. If I meet somebody, that's great. But it's not like, oh my God, what am I going to do if I don't find somebody like
Right.
tomorrow, And sometimes it's a process of getting to that point, where you're really, really, really okay, on your own. And I really enjoy my own company. I think I'm pretty fantastic, to tell you the truth. So,
Same here.
so yeah, yeah. So, and then, and I think that makes you much more attractive to someone,
Yeah.
because I think men can smell, neediness
Yes,
a mile away.
desperation.
Yeah, desperation, that's the word. Yes. They
Yes.
can smell that a mile away, and that doesn't work that well at all for you. So,
Right.
I
No,
yeah,
there is really something to that. Happiness and confidence are really the most appealing qualities you can have.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, if someone wanted to work with you, how could they get in touch with you?
My website is lovingagaincoach.com.
Mhm.
I'm on Facebook under Dating Again. I'm on Instagram at dating.again. All that has my contact information. I actually have a YouTube channel as
Oh,
well where I give out dating advice, which is called Dating Again. Shocking.
okay. Okay.
But yes, so my phone number is all over everything. People can
Okay.
text me to make an appointment. People can schedule through my website.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you've certainly done a great job of branding yourself, I must say, because you've carried the dating again and loving again all the way through, and I think that'll make folks very easy to find you, But listen, I think our time is just about up, but I really, really, really appreciate how open and how much you've shared with our listeners today, and I would love for you to come back soon and do a part two, and maybe we can even take do a segment where we do questions and answers and have people to call in. That's another possibility for us as well.
Oh,
But
I would love that.
yeah, I think that would be, maybe we'll plan that for the next one. But again, this is our guest today is Sharon Olson Collier, and Loving Again. She's a coach, certified life coach,
Yes.
and personal development coach. And if you look up Dating Again on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, you can easily find her, and it's I think worth a conversation at the very, very least, if you have been struggling with this area of your life, if this is something that you feel like you want someone in your life but just aren't sure how to go about it, and or you feel like you've been going about it all wrong and aren't really satisfied with the results that you've been getting. So please keep Sharon in mind going forward, and give her a buzz. And Sharon, I just really, really, really want to thank you for being here today, because this is something that I don't think we really deal with that often, especially in the Christian community, and something that I think is so needful, that it is possible to have a healthy, happy Christian dating life where you're not, filled with guilt and, all the things that you said. I think our audience can take away and implement, and just have raging success with it, or at least the beginning of it, before they call you and sign up for one of your programs. So, but I really want to thank you, and I thank our audience for being here. And until next time, this is Carol Moulton signing off. And remember, everything, everything, including a partner, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So until next time, be blessed, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Take care. Okay.